Welcome to the All of You podcast, where we believe healthy relationships are created by growing individually and pursuing a healthy relationship with yourself.
So let's take a deep breath. Settle in and grow together. I almost can't start this episode without mentioning the fires right now and how heavy they are on my heart and all the people that there's just so much loss and devastation, homes and businesses. And probably by the time this episode airs, the fires will have been put out. But hopefully, as we're filming, I think I just want to let people know, if you're listening and you are affected by the fires, we're with you and praying for you.
It kind of just gives you perspective that like a lot of the things we talk about are really important in day-to-day lives, but especially like this episode that we're going to talk about, like may not apply to anyone whose house is burning down. And that's okay. Like everyone's in different seasons going through different things, and you're just dealing with the struggles you have, but it just gives you perspective of how bad things can get real fast.
Yeah. And I think there is a world where all of it intersects, in that when disaster strikes, having a firm foundation of tools or even a spiritual life or spiritual practices that can help you through those seasons is really beneficial. That's not what this episode's about to be on, but I do think there's a world where it kind of all intersects.
Yeah, and you did a post on how to support those going through it emotionally, and I think that's where it intersects, is the people who are hurting the most in this world right now will get the most support from the people who are the healthiest and who have been taking care. Like the point of taking care of yourself really well is so that when somebody's really struggling, you can be there.
Yeah, you have the capacity. With that said, to transition over to something kind of exciting in our world, but also fascinating, is last week we put out an episode on resentment, and we put out a Instagram reel and a TikTok post that kind of summarized what the episode was about. And over in the TikTok world, it's now, I think it's at 28,000 views, something like that. And it's still going up, and it is just resonating out there. And what we're seeing in the comments section is a lot of comments about the mental load, a lot of comments about women feeling like it's actually, I don't think a single man has commented at this point. It's really women being upset about their partners not pulling weight in the house and that creating resentment. And
yeah, man, you are getting roasted right now on TikTok.
Truly.
Me as well. I'm getting roasted too. You're not alone.
Yeah. And as we were preparing our hearts for this episode, ironically enough, we were like, what are we going to talk about today? We normally know way in advance what we're going to talk about and have a plan. And today we just didn't. And all of a sudden a text came in from a really good girlfriend of mine that was like, hey, I have this episode idea, the mental load. And it was kind of this divine sign that we're like, all right, we got to talk about this today.
Yeah, so this is ending up to be like a 3-part series, because we did resentment and then we did compassion, which as of right now hasn't been released yet, but that'll be released Monday. And then this will come out the following Monday on the mental load and perspective. And they're all really related. We've been talking about this same concept, but I think it's like, this is almost like a 3-part series on understanding your partner and really using that analogy that we drew in the resentment episode for stay-at-home parents. Not just stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads too, but I think what we're seeing is there's the large percentage of stay-at-home parents are stay-at-home moms and working moms as well, and just the mental load of house cleaning chores keeping up with the house. And how do you do this life with a partner on the same team carrying such a big load and not turn on each other?
Yeah, and I'm just going to be completely transparent. There was a part of me, there is a part of me scared to tackle this episode because there are times where
You turn on me.
I turn on Dave and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, leaving the dishes in the sink. Like, there are times where I don't use my tools. And I think that I give myself grace, and I'm just going to choose to look at it through the lens of it puts me in the right chair to have, not right chair. I can have the right heart posture for this conversation because I understand it. I've been the head of household where I lived on my own for 7 years and took care of the house, granted with only one person and a dog, much easier to do. I've also worked full time and lived with Dave and the girls and had to share the duties around the house. And then I quit my job and was stay at home full time / had a side gig that I was working on. So partially with the girls, partially working. So I've seen it from a lot of different angles, which I hope brings a lot of perspective. And I hope I'm able to share a lot of the ways that I manage it and the tools that I have. But overall, I just want to, I think, say that I carry a lot of empathy for the women who are carrying the mental load and want to put a very strong caveat at the top of this episode that it can be hard to tackle a topic like this because every single household has different internal dynamics because everyone's relationship and partner is different. And it's hard to speak broadly to women who work full time and are managing the household versus full time stay at home moms versus partners who have helpful husbands versus partners who have total couch potato husbands. There's such a wide spectrum that is hard to speak, hard to give advice generally when I think that everything is very much situational, but we're going to try to tackle this as best we can in a general way that's hopefully helpful.
Yeah, because no one can speak to your situation and what your wants and needs are in the home and what you feel, and a lot of this comes down to what are you feeling and what do you actually need. And we talked last week about compassion and just having compassion on the other one's experience. And I think, I don't want to be redundant, but I also don't remember exactly what I said in those previously two episodes. So it might be a little redundant, but it might call for that too. I think it's a trap.
You think the mental load is a trap?
I think this conversation is like a trap.
You mean when a couple has the conversation?
Yeah. Like I was married for, I don't even know how long.
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years. And
you're welcome.
I was married for over 10 years and didn't have the emotional maturity or awareness to be in those types of conversations with resentment and had no understanding of what was happening. And then I now married to you, and in our relationship, I've seen the same patterns kind of take place. And I bet you every couple across the whole world has experienced the conversation where I'll call it the chore list, like recalling the chores, where you recall the chores that you've done. I've done the trash. And then you go,
I empty the dishwasher.
I do the yard work.
I vacuum.
I go to work every day.
I do all of the laundry.
It's like, where does it end? Like, that conversation is just, you know it. You know you've entered it. You know when you enter it. And every time that we go down that like it's like anytime it starts, I stop it. Because you're just
sometimes you stop it really well, and then sometimes when you're frustrated, you go, "Oh, you're gonna play tit for tat."
Yeah.
When's that been beneficial? And then I go, like I get all mad because I know it never ends well, and you're right. So it's like, okay, let's not even go down that road. We got to course correct.
It doesn't work. And you gotta shift your perspective. And I know that's painful. It's hard to shift your perspective. It's so difficult to view the other one's perspective. And
hey friends, wanted to interrupt you really quick to let you know that if you're looking to go deeper into your healing journey or just want support, I offer coaching services for women, and Dave coaches men.
So feel free to go to the link in our bio and book a call with us. We'd love to meet you. And if you're enjoying this episode, please tap that subscribe button.
And now back to the show.
If you are a woman who is a stay-at-home mom and literally doing chores all day, laundry every single day, you have loads of laundry, you're doing the same thing, you never get a day off, it's 7 days a week, your kids are constantly nagging at you for a snack or for the next meal or for more toys or what are we going to do today? And you're just in this grind of it. You don't ever get a day off, you know? It's really, really, really hard. It's a hard life to raise children and to literally be there for your kids all the time. If you can't afford childcare, or you just are choosing to be the one that's caring for your child all day, and you don't have a job, and that's just your job is to be a homemaker and make all the meals and everything. It's just like, I see you. It's insane of a job. Like, it is crazy to do that every day.
It's so thankless. It's so thankless.
And then the husband, if he's got a job he likes and enjoys, it can seem like, oh, happy birthday. Like, you get to do whatever you get to go for coffee. You get to do this. You get to do that.
You're out wine and dining with clients. I'm at home with shit on my t-shirt.
Yeah.
And can't shower without someone banging on the glass.
Yeah. Or the other scenario is maybe the husband is a plumber and literally, head in shit all day long. Like, he's got to deal with poo and just nasty situations, and his back hurts and he's tired and it's hard manual labor, and he's got to deal with terrible clients or what. Like, the situation can be really, really hard, and I want to have empathy and grace for people. And so how do you see each other?
I think that that's actually where we go wrong from the get-go is when, and I'm going to speak just purely from my experience, and that is, it hits me that I'm overwhelmed because I've got all of these things going on, and it's like the straw breaks the camel's back. That might be that, like, you didn't clean up after your, like, I don't know, hair in the sink after you shaved or something. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Of everything I have to do, now I need to clean up your mustache hair? And like, joking, not joking, right? And
I feel it.
And so all of a sudden that I'm like, my overwhelm is hit, and my primary emotion, anger, comes out. And if I go up to you in that moment and I'm ready to throw down about the hair in the sink, lost the battle.
Mm-hmm.
The battle is over. Nothing productive is going to come from that. And
unless I'm in a place where I can like help you through it,
yes,
then maybe I can squash it.
I would agree with that. I don't know if I should say this or not, but I don't think that many men are able to do that in the way that you do. I think that's something that
No, it takes a Herculean effort of love.
Yeah,
to
and so
be
I don't want
somebody
to act
come at
like that's
you.
the standard because it's not.
Yeah, but like, let me like for 30 seconds talk to the men, if any are still listening.
None are
And
listening.
and say,
The women have already sent the husbands this episode, and they're like,
yeah, and they turned it off.
"Yep."
No, there's men listening. I know there are, because they message me, and I thank them for those messages. If you really want to handle that situation, and I cannot do this every time, if I have to be in a state of love, I have to be connected to love, and love has to be my highest priority in this moment. The moment you come up to me in the middle of, I'm editing the podcast, or I'm doing something work related, or my headspace is in work or chores or whatever I'm doing, right? Or the kids, and you come up to me and gripe about mustache hair in the sink, I have one of two roads I can travel down. The road to debating you about mustache hair and if it's a problem, or how much I should clean it, or if I miss a hair is the devil. Like, I can go down that road and we can fight for as long as we want to fight. We could take that fight and turn it into days of arguments and make it.
Trust us, we have
many times,
like days. We have done that.
Yeah, where the point where we're like, we can't. This isn't even working. Like, this whole
should
thing
we even be together?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been there.
And it's a trap, because if I choose door number 2, it's so hard in the moment, but in the long run, it leads to everything I want in life, which is love and connection and a healthy, happy home, and not wasting time fighting.
I want you to explain what is door number 2.
Yeah, I'm going to, but I'm saying door number 2 is the way to go. If you have it in you and you take a deep breath and you realize to yourself that your beautiful bride, the one and you remind yourself of who she is and everything that she's capable of, is probably really, really overwhelmed, or has some kind of trigger or something going on. Something happened to her. Your bride is no longer there. She's in there, but her anger has taken over. And if she is fighting the battle over the mustache hair, she tripped on the mini little problem. She fell in the trap of, it's about mustache hair, or it's about the dishes, or it's about the laundry. It's not about the laundry or the dishes or the mustache hair. I promise you. It's about something way deeper that she doesn't feel seen or appreciated. And if I choose the option to see you and go, she fell in the trap, and I can't argue with her out of the trap. I have to kind of go into the trap as well and sit there with her and kind of not be passive aggressive, not get defensive, and just smile and love and see I validate your way through it, and it is a Herculean effort to love like that, because you're really about to get attacked. You're about to get attacked and assassinated by your wife about how messy you are, and how, like, she doesn't have any help around the house, and how you're not doing enough, and all that. And then you just let her attack you. And then you, at the end, when she feels finally emotionally cleared, you can remind her that you have a lot on your plate too, and that it's not about the small thing. But man, it's so hard.
Yeah, I really love what you said about getting in with her and seeing her and validating her and holding space for her experience, because I think that emotional support and validation is what a lot of us women crave. But I want to take a little step back and a little bit more bigger picture. And the sense that I'm getting from the women on TikTok and a lot of women that I speak to is okay, so I do the cooking, the cleaning, I take care of the kids, I make sure they have the right size clothes, I manage the social calendar, I am like managing a Herculean amount of household duties. And oftentimes it is actually not equal. Like how much work they're doing around the house versus their husbands is very much not balanced.
Well, that's one. So maybe we like section off this conversation because that's one scenario where like, what if it's not balanced? What if it's actually not balanced?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I was referring to is like, we do kind of agree that most of the time it is pretty balanced, not around house chores. You do way more than me.
Well,
But
and you know what? I think
overall
actually,
mental load, we do balance it overall pretty well, and you'll still come at me.
yeah, I think that's probably a good place to start. And then let's transition to when it's not balanced,
Yeah.
because let's start with actually what our household looks like and how we operate, because that can kind of help paint a perspective of where we're coming from. And I for sure manage more of what we would define as the mental load.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. And
Of the like certain mental loads though.
well,
Like,
and
yeah.
exactly. So I am cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm laundry. I would say with the girls' emotional needs, it's very much 50-50.
I might even handle more.
You might,
to a
yeah,
degree
actually, you
if
probably
it's in a
do handle
pinch,
more
yeah.
of their emotional needs, playing with them, probably
Which I would actually
50-50.
encourage dads to do. You can handle, especially if you have daughters, like step in and be there when they're young to handle that. It takes a huge weight off the mom, and also it's an area that you're gifted in, likely, to like you're designed to handle the emotions of a woman maybe, and so like a little girl, like you can, it's not that hard, and it's a way that you can help that carries a big load.
Yep. And then, so yeah, I manage more of like day-to-day household. If you want to hang out with us, you're probably texting me and not Dave. If you want to know what our calendar looks like. And that's not 100% true.
I handle some of it.
You do handle some of it.
I probably, it's probably 70-30 in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I do manage more of the stereotypical like mental load, I find myself falling more quickly into the I do everything around the house and you don't do anything and you need to help. And that's where I have to actually shift my perspective. And I would say that when I get to this place of like, I do everything and Dave doesn't everything and his mustache hair is in the sink, that stage of overwhelm, I truly leave reality. Because my feelings are so big and so overwhelming, I lose reality and I lose perspective of what you actually do. And you actually manage, I would say, a bigger load than I do. The financial burden falls more on your shoulders than it does mine. We own our house, so if anything goes wrong, you're fixing it. And our house was built in the 20s. A lot goes wrong, and Dave's always fixing it. You take care of the yards. We just had a storm come through, and you're out there for a few hours picking up tree
Broken
clippings
tree,
and
yeah.
And so when I lose reality, I have to ground into this. Dave is pulling weight. It's just not the same weight that I'm pulling. And I would also say too, you manage more of the mental load of our co-parenting dynamic. Not allow.
Yeah, by
90,
design.
yeah, by design, 90% of communication goes to you. And unless I need to be alerted or involved, I can kind of take a back seat on that, which allows me more capacity for the day-to-day around here. So that, I would say, that's a mental load that
You cook the meals for the most part. I rarely cook a meal. I might cook breakfast sometimes, but I don't. But I don't. One way that we handle it is I don't. The areas that are your, like, under you, fall under your name on the list, I don't ever expect them to be done. If they're not done, I don't come blame you. I don't shame you. I don't if you do get them done, I just trust you. I trust you to get them done and you get most of it. But if like you didn't go grocery shopping or I'm out of creamer, I'm not going to get mad at you. There's no way you're going to make mistakes. I just know, like, it's expectations. I know you're going to make a mistake here and there. You're not going to always have creamer in the fridge. You have creamer in the fridge so much more often than I would have creamer in the fridge if I was doing the grocery shopping. So I just appreciate the fact that, like, when I'm pouring the last little bit of creamer, I'm like, I wonder if there's more. And then I look and magically there's more. And I go, oh, she's the best. I'm just trying to be grateful. Like, gratitude goes so far. But I think even though our household is somewhat even when it comes to the overall mental load, on any given day, it could be much more on me or on you. Like, if all of a sudden something breaks in the home, you're glad you're you and not me. If everything's been going smooth around the house and the yard is easy to maintain lately and the kids have been easy and we need groceries and dinner, and I'm glad I'm me and not you. Like, and there's just days where, and so you're always kind of like checking in with one another. So if the overall mental load is somewhat even in your guys' lives, in a couple's lives, and like financially, cleanliness, like all this stuff, it's kind of even, then there's never any point to attack each other. If somebody's dropping the ball on their side, it's like checking in, like what's going on? Like, are you okay?
But I would say that having the expectation it will be exactly even is setting yourself up for failure. There's just no way to know for certain, okay, it's even. But I think that's where I think that the conversation of how are we splitting things up comes into play.
And that should be a constant check-in.
Yeah. And it comes down to we go by whose strength it is. So whoever cares more and is better at it, and then trying to make it kind of as even as we can, knowing it's never going to be exactly, and then trusting that if one of us is underwater, the other person's going to jump in and help get him out. So if I don't have anything to make for dinner, then you don't get mad at me. You're like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like, we're ordering pizza, like whatever it is, like, yeah, you'll jump in for me.
Let me bring up an example there. Like, there was a day when we were wedding planning that you were just tapped, because mental health comes into play too. Like, we're not robots. So your partner isn't a robot. So you one day were tapped, done, cooked. Like, you just needed to go to bed.
Well, to be fair, remodeling our house, our yard, and planning a wedding at our house in 4 months while raising children and a podcast was a lot.
It's not a knock. It's not a knock on you.
Yeah,
it's not. You don't have to defend it. I'm not.
There's my defensiveness coming out.
Accusing you. You were done, and you said that you felt like you were carrying more. And this is a day that I handled it well. And I was like, "What do you need?" And I stopped in the yard, which was needed. There was a lot going on out there that needed to still get done, and I just put my stuff aside, and I cooked a dinner that night in request by you. I was like, you asked, can you handle dinner? I was like, okay. And then you basically went to bed that day. Like, that does happen to people. And we no matter how healthy you are, you're going to have days where it's just, you got a headache or you're sick or just mentally overloaded and you lost the battle that day. And I think, you want to measure the mental load and not days, not even really weeks, maybe in months or years. Like, if I did way more than you this week, does it really matter if you do more than me most weeks? And this is something that I've gotten from another podcast around measuring your goals this way too. Don't measure your workout routine in like today. Did I work out today or not? Don't measure your fun. Did I have fun this week? Try to look back in like the year, because then you remember that trip you went on. Then you remember that this 3-month time was a time to work really hard. So now it's time to focus on fun. Like, the longer you give the scope to look at it, the more you see that it probably is more even than you think. And you probably do have better balance than you think you have when you look at a broader range. And if you look at the broader range and you don't have the balance that you need, then it's time to make adjustments.
But it's so hard to hold that perspective when the straw has broken the camel's back and you're looking at that mustache hair in the sink and you're like, I just scrubbed the toilet and now there's mustache hair. Like I just want to hold space for that what you're saying is 100% true. But in those moments of overwhelm, holding that perspective is the challenge.
Yes, but this is the difference in the two conversations. In one home, you have equal mental load or somewhat. It doesn't even have to be equal. You're just both happy with it. In my house with you, I don't want you to carry the load that I'm carrying. I want to carry more. I believe that I should. And I believe a happy wife makes a happy life. And I see that the gifts you have are different than mine. And one of my gifts is I can be a freaking workhorse. I can work harder than a lot of people. And I know that about myself. So I offer that gift and I try to, my goal is to outwork you. I don't want you to outwork me. I want to carry more if I can, I just want to carry as much as I can. And then that's all I can carry, right? But if the mental load is fair, or at least you guys have agreed upon it, then the goal is don't attack each other. Just ride the waves. Like, some weeks are not going to be as easy. Some weeks I'm cleaner than other weeks. On the weeks I'm not as clean, it's probably because I just took on a new client or I'm just working more hours and things like that. And if you cannot attack me, then that's helpful.
Well, and I would say I was actually going to go right in this direction. It's funny you say that, because probably our biggest fight, or not fight, point of contention is I like that my standard of cleanliness is not the same as yours. And this might even be a life commandment, but I feel like my brain is messy when my house is messy. And we work from home. Therefore, in order for me to get work done, the house has to be clean. And you don't operate that way whatsoever.
No, you're a maintainer. So you maintain well and you keep up with things so much better than I. And I'm a dreamer and I'm always going after the next goal, the next thing. I'm always creating whatever. I'm creating something that doesn't exist almost always.
Yeah. And I think that's where I've had to shift my perspective around this, because otherwise I will lose my mind. Like, I have to change my perspective and go, okay, Dave doesn't really care if the house is as clean as I do. Dave cares if we can pay the mortgage next month and the month after that, and that our basic needs.
I care that we're on track with our goals.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and I've even noticed this, like, and I think we've talked about this before, you have a magical little skill of when you do the dishes in the evening, you leave a dish out it's unbelievable how you can get 99% of the way and not just get to 100 with the dishes. There's always one dish, always one. And it just baffles my brain. And I asked you recently, I'm like, I'm not even mad, just like, how? Like, explain to me how you could wash all the dishes but one every night. And your response was, well, I'm really not thinking about doing the dishes. I'm thinking about, and I forget exactly what you said, but it was something super important and big picture in our lives. And it was how you were going to approach it. And I'm like, oh, his mind is in an entirely different space that I actually kind of need his mind to be at. And so it was helpful for me to have a little bit more compassion of like, okay, so he didn't do the last dish, but he is figuring out, this XYZ thing for the business that we need. And I can be grateful that 90% of the dishes got done. And so there's I've had to learn a ton of different mindset tools and perspective shifts to be able to not feel resentment between us and be grateful for our dynamic. And it's been very helpful.
You've had to learn how to love another human.
Yeah.
That's what love is.
That's what love is. And to be totally honest, going from someone who I had my own place for 7 years and it was meticulous and organized. And then I moved into a house with a partner and 2 kids, and that rocked my world. So I had to learn so many tools in order to feel at peace here.
Tools that help you love.
Tools that help me love.
Love is the key. Because fair doesn't exist in love, in terms of love. Because but it is so tricky because you do have to, we're always balancing this spectrum of narcissism and people pleaser. So like if we're on a trip and we're going from point A to point B and I'm carrying 1,000 pounds and you're carrying 500 pounds, I could get resentful. But what if I'm stronger than you and I can carry the 1,000 pounds? Like, what if our total luggage equals 1,500 pounds and I'm towing this like wheelbarrow of 1,000 pounds across whatever the path, and you have 500 and your muscles give out and you're tired and exhausted? It's a moot point if like it's fair. It doesn't matter. I love you and I'm trying to get from point A to point B with you, So I think a lot of men kind of feel that way of like, I'm not playing tit for tat. I'm not trying to have you carry more weight than me or not. I'm just trying to get there and I'm carrying as much as I can carry. Now, a lot of men aren't carrying as much as they can carry. And a lot of men aren't working their capacity. They're not just like muscles, you work out to expand your capacity to carry more weight physically. You can work out emotionally to carry more weight emotionally as well. And listen to your partner and check in and make sure. You don't want to live in a house where it's the mental load is totally unbalanced. But you also don't want to pick fights all the time and try to make it perfectly even either, And I think we lose when we just get to the point. People get divorced when they get to the point where they're like, I can't win. And I've been giving and giving and giving, and I just can't keep doing this. I'm tired. They won't see me. They won't appreciate me. They don't see my perspective. And really, people get divorced when the perspective is now they don't love me and your view of them is no longer good and their view of you is no longer good. and you don't have a good view of each other. So if you want to get from point A to point B and carrying all this luggage, you gotta keep a healthy view of each other. And that takes love. It takes understanding their experience, appreciating the things that they're good at, what they do bring to the table, gratitude for your partner. Like, I know it sounds stupid to practice all these little things, but I mean, don't practice gratitude for your partner and show me where your marriage is at in 10 years.
So I agree with everything that you're saying in more equitable marriages. But the sense that I'm getting from a limited audience, but from our comment section and from
It's
some
true.
of the women that I
You
know
are right.
is we aren't the norm, and we need to not talk as though we are, because if someone's listening to this episode because they want to learn about the mental load, it's likely because it is a problem and very uneven for them. And a lot of that comes, I believe, a lot of the root of it is not seeking to actually understand each other and seeking to understand what really is on each other's plates. And it's also a lot of expectations. It's the men expecting the women to just take care of everything. And then it's the women expecting the men to pull their weight. And expectations is really tricky because having high expectations is a recipe for disaster. And I hate to say this because it's not an optimistic perspective, but if you're expecting your partner to help around the house when you were dating a man who lived in a sloppy apartment and married a man whose house was messy, your expectations that you're going to get married and he's going to help around the house were wrong to begin with. You married someone who doesn't care to clean the house. And unfortunately, one of the tools is you have to match your expectations with reality to not drive yourself crazy.
Well, and like, I don't want to derail us totally, but I do have a belief that this stems, and we're talking in this conversation, we're mostly talking about women and men, obviously a couple where the man is more driven towards masculinity, the woman's more driven towards feminine. Like we believe there's all different ways to live life and equality, and how you do it for your home is how you do it. But we're kind of talking about our experience and people who are more in that, I don't know,
goes back to my
norm.
original caveat that it's hard to speak to all scenarios.
Yeah, but I do believe that this stems from like an evolutionary standpoint of not that long ago, women needed a man to literally survive.
You couldn't get a mortgage. You couldn't get a credit card.
Yeah.
You couldn't vote. You couldn't.
Yeah. So biologically, like genetically speaking, in your genes, in your trauma, in your generational trauma, there is a natural instinct to be kind of scarcity minded towards men. And especially, a lot of women out there have been hurt by men. And so men have always had this attitude of, if a guy is attractive and makes money, he really doesn't have to do a lot more. So women are at, it sucks.
This is a very sad reality.
100%. And I'm speaking it, and I'm calling all the men to like rise up and realize this too. And what do? I just don't think there's a lot of good men out there that are willing to do house chores and stuff. A man in his mind thinks if he makes a certain amount of money and is attractive enough, that's all he needs.
So you really think that that's the man's perspective? That like,
I've seen, when I went through a divorce and I scoured the internet for like what men were talking about, there's total like Reddit platforms and videos on men who just go from woman to woman, and like it's gnarly out there with the perspective that men have. So they're playing like they have the upper hand, and whoever cares less in a relationship has control. So if the man's not scared for the woman to leave him, then he has control. But men are losing because they're not seeing that's not us. That's not your divine purpose. Your divine, like what a man really wants deep down is one woman. He does. A man really does want love. He wants to be loved unconditionally. He wants to be seen. He wants to be heard. He wants to be able to express his emotions safely, and he wants that love, but he is playing this game that society tells us. A lot of men are in marriages where the woman is resentful and the woman is not really attracted to the man because he's not helping around the house, and she feels unloved, underappreciated, and they're not having a lot of sex. And as soon as they're not having a lot of sex, the man goes, I hope you leave me. I'll just go out and have a bunch of sex.
This just took a wild turn, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, but like, it's depressing.
Yeah. So what we need is for more men to actually heal and realize that more sex doesn't equal good. I mean, and more sex with a bunch of different women is not the way to fulfillment. I promise you. It's just like read anybody any celebrity, any rock star that slept with thousands of women, like check in with them. Did it make them happy? Check in with a man who's served a woman and guided her spiritually and loved her and had kids and raised those kids. And then now those kids want to come back around the home when you're older because there's a sweet grandma that cooks, bakes cookies. And like, that's the purpose. That's the love. Like you give to the next generation, and you're fulfilling your life's purpose by loving well and providing and living your purpose, whatever that purpose is. So for men, like, find your purpose. Your purpose is probably not doing dishes. Maybe it is to some men. Maybe some men, their purpose is to be stay-at-home men while the wife pursues the career. Like, everyone's different. But if your purpose is out there to go and do this thing, then your job is to check in with your wife and have conversations and love well. I mean, maybe a man's purpose is one of my best friends travels for work for weeks at a time, and he has 3 kids. Like, he's providing, he's living his purpose. And so he's not around the house to clean and do all those things. How do they have a healthy, happy marriage? Like, you have to talk to each other and communicate and not put anything before your connection. Like, everything is on the table. Where we live, what the amount of money we make, the job I have, everything is on the table for discussion. What's not on the table for discussion is us not figuring it out. Like, that's priority, and that connection is priority, because if it's not, good luck. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but what does the woman do whose man doesn't hold that perspective? And what do you do if you're a woman who is like, yeah, my husband just expects that I handle everything because he provides, and he doesn't have to clean the house, and he doesn't have to help with the kids because he brings in the paycheck. Like, that perspective that you're saying, and he's like, well, if she doesn't like it, I'll go find another woman because I make a grip of money and women love money, right? Like, who has that mindset? What do you say? What does that woman do?
I would suggest getting really, really honest with yourself and getting really honest about your partner and your view of your partner, and you're witnessing their life, and look deep within and say, is my goal to have a 50-50 shared weight between us? Or is my goal actually love? And actually this like trust in our relationship. So it's not about the mental load being 50-50, because that's why I say it's a trap. You can fight, you can do that. You can literally split 50-50. Me and my ex used to have days we had the kids, and it was split 50-50 who had days with the kids. You can split it all day you want. You can do the math 25 ways to Sunday to try to figure out if it's fair or not. But that's not going to lead you back to love. And if you're really looking for what you're really looking for deep down, honestly, maybe you're just looking for help with the laundry. Maybe that's you, and that's okay too. And then you can just express that. Some days that's you. Some days you just want me to help, and that's just what you need. And it's not much deeper than that. But sometimes,
and we can coach you on how to express that in a way that's easy for them to receive. Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes
simpler conversation.
Yeah. But sometimes it is literally like we've lost the love, and we're fighting about laundry. We're fighting about all this other stuff, but we're not on a path to loving each other anymore. Like, where did the love go? I mean, and like, think back when you met, and not the like first 3 months necessarily, but the love you shared when you were, I don't know, at your wedding, or when, like, whatever it is for you, that you held love in your heart for their perspective. They were going through something and you felt bad and you felt compassionate on them. Like, when's the last time you felt compassion for your partner? Or are you just playing this game of tit for tat, resentful, and collecting data that shows that they don't love you? And so if you're in that situation and you're a woman who is like doing 75% of the mental load, and you're like, how do I do this? Or the man who's doing the man could be doing 75%. Whoever it is that's actually trying to find their way back to love, your goal is to lead your partner back to love. And if you can lead your partner back to love, then it will look more 50-50, because they'll actually care about your mental health. They'll care about how you feel on a given day,
I challenge that though, because we can't change our partners. So how do you lead your partner back to love? I guess the question I'm really asking is like, are you telling me on top of the laundry and the dishes and the mustache hair and the dirty diapers and the poop on your shirt, you've got to also take on the responsibility of leading him back to love?
No, I mean, my belief is it's better that, like,
your belief is the man has to lead, right?
I think it goes better, and it's more, but I have seen it where, it does happen where the woman somehow musters up the ability to call the man back to love.
Yeah, but what I'm digging for here is like, where's the hope that the woman can hold on to?
Because if you get back to love, that's the promised land.
I 1,000% agree. But the woman can't get the man to love.
Well, maybe she
has to choose that.
Maybe she can't, maybe she can. And I don't know if you can. And I do know that if you can't, and you keep trying and you keep trying, at some point you have to decide, like, is it possible? Are they going to come back? And you can't do it resentfully. You can't do it hopefully. You have to literally like give a time frame of like, I'm going to wait a year.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it for me. I'm going to do it for me, not for them. You can't save anyone else. So like, if your partner isn't going to love you, isn't going to find their way back to love, and like, what is love? I
Well,
can
it
feel
is a
love.
feeling, but also it's caring about how the other person
It's
feels.
connection.
And I think that's where I would say, speaking to women, like, you can't make your husband love you. You can't make your husband really do anything. Like, it's all choice. Like, there's no force, but you can boundary them. And so there are tools, I would say. Like, one, you can boundary them, but then, like, there's mindset shifts, there's boundaries, and then there's also getting really aware of how you feel and how you feel in the relationship, and communicating that not from a place of resentment, not from a place of hurt and like anger. It can be from hurt, but not from anger, but communicating it from like, hey, babe, I'm really concerned for us. I don't feel like you see me. I don't feel
Yeah, but if
loved.
you're so far gone that you, like, if your relationship is so far gone, it doesn't start with that.
No?
No, that's us. If you're in that, so if you're us, you can have that conversation and call back to love. If love has been gone for a year, or love has been gone for 5 years, or love has been gone for 25 years in your marriage, and you're just now realizing you're in a bad place, and you've just been going through the motions while raising kids and just bearing resentment, and you look at the other person and you have a list 1,000 items long that you could go into, and you did the trash, you did the dishes, and your list is so long you can outrun them every time with things that you did and that they didn't do. You are behind the wall of resentment. You can't just have a conversation. You have to go on a spiritual journey and do it for yourself, and do it for God, and do it for whatever your higher power is, or whatever. Like, you have to decide to love them and call them and lead them back to love. And hopefully they're doing the same thing. But if they're not, if your partner is gone and they're just stuck on starting this business, or just stuck on making this amount of money, or just stuck on whatever, because think about it. If a man in the beginning of a relationship, when you two caught fire, maybe you were sleeping together, maybe you weren't, but those kisses were, way better than any kiss you've had the last 5 years with them. Like in the beginning, those like sweet, loving, the attraction and the connection was, the chemistry was so fire. The man would have done anything. I used to get home from work, having drove like 30 minutes, and then drive an hour and a half to you in traffic sometimes, live out of a bag, come back in the morning. Like it was, I would do anything to be with you, right? So you're telling me that a man, like as a man that loves you, I won't do a load of laundry for you? Like a man that loves a wife, if the wife's like, I am overwhelmed and I need help, and he will go. So the issue isn't the laundry. I'm telling you, the issue is the love, and the love is gone, and he doesn't feel the attraction. He doesn't feel the connection. And so the trap is to get stuck on, if the mental load was fair, we would have love again. No, if the mental load was fair, you'd have a really cool roommate at best. Are you working did you get married and have kids to have a roommate, or is your dream love?
No, I hear you, and I think that's beautiful and powerful. I'm still holding space for the woman who's like, yeah, Dave, I'm sold. I want to return to love and get my laundry done. Like, I'm in it.
Are you up for the
What?
challenge? And that's an honest question. So let's play it. You're her. You're the woman. Your husband leaves so much mustache hair in the sink, it's not even funny. And whatever, shoes everywhere, all the things I do. And you realize now that you you thought you were fighting for 50-50 mental load, but really you want to hook him again in love, and then he'll rub your feet and give you back rubs and sweet kisses and come up behind you and embrace you and all those things. Like, you really want deep down a lot more than just 50-50, you know?
Oh, for
You
sure.
want a
Yeah.
man that's going to freaking love you is what you want, and adore you and celebrate you and cherish you. That's what you want. So how do you get back to that? It's like, are you ready? Are you prepared to try to break down all the wall of resentment? And I mean, you got to see him. So if you were her, I would tell you, well, what'd you fall in love with in the beginning? What are the things you fell in love with?
His character, the way he loves his daughters, his work ethic, his spiritual life and relationship to God, his adventurous nature, honestly, in the way he loved me.
Okay. And do you see those things today? Like, let's pretend not. Let's pretend not. Let's pretend that I'm not doing those things. I just got totally distracted by this running a taco shop that I decided to open, and I am obsessed with making it the best tacos of all time. And I'm on my way to, being the best CEO of taco shops or something. I don't know. Like, you have to call me back to love. How do you do that? It's not so much different than the way you attract each other in the beginning, but you would have to decide, man, that's a man that I want. And you'd have to go like after him,
Which is uniquely challenging because
so much resentment.
Well, and you're like, I don't want Mr. Taco.
Yeah.
I want the guy that I fell in love with. And you're like, but now I'm stuck with Mr. Taco. And I think, to be fair, Mr. Taco is probably like, well, all Miss Taco does is nag me.
Yeah, 100%.
And she just nags and nags and nags. So all I want to do is make tacos so I can get away from naggy Miss Taco. And then you're just widening that gap, right?
Okay, let me ask Miss Taco a question. Do you believe that if he really thought that you loved him and felt that love, he would come back to you? Do you believe he's still in there? Do you believe he'll come back to you? And is it worth trying?
I can only answer that question for myself.
You. Yeah. If I got lost and I was just driven on this mission to make this the greatest podcast of all time, and I'm not able to see you anymore, and I'm not loving you anymore, and the question would be, do you believe that you could show me love again? Like, do you believe that if you showed me love, I would come?
I believe if I showed you love, you would come. But just being real, with a high wall of resentment and you off cooking tacos all the time, it's like, where do you even muster up that love to even begin showing it?
That's the Herculean effort.
Yeah, and it's on top of the already existing mental load you're doing.
Yeah. And also, you might have done this 5 times throughout the last 20 years in your marriage, and you're sick and tired of being the one that's always got to lead him back to love. I get it. But here's the thing. You don't get from point A, because where you're trying to go, point B, is with your partner. So you have a decision to make. Like, you don't get to point B, from A to point B, if you don't find your way back to love with him, because you'll get there, but you won't actually, it'll be somewhere over here. It won't be the promised land that you're trying to go. And you're trying to go is to have a healthy, happy marriage, relationship, love, right? You don't get there without leading him. And maybe he can't lead the love. And maybe that's, I don't know, like you got to take that up with God. The other option is you decide I'm over it and I'm done. And then you go to C. You don't go to B. You're going from A to C. And C is you single or with somebody else and living a different life. And I'm not saying that's wrong. And this is, I believe this is the man's job. I just do. I think we're built that way. That's just my take, but I'm not putting that on anyone else. Like I don't tell people that they have to do anything. But if in my home, I'm the one that when we hit the wall of resentment and when it's like level 10, we're angry with each other, I believe it's my call. I go to God. And when I go to God, he goes, yep, this is your job. Sorry, man. And then I go, I'm so mad. And then he reminds me, I don't want to be led. I want to lead. Like that's what I want to lead. I want to lead you back to love. That's my greatest. It's so fulfilling. It's not even funny. Like when I lead you back to love, it's like I actually get the win. It's just the best. So like if you're a man and you can be the one to lead your wife back to love, that's what you always wanted in the beginning. You probably pursued her. You probably won her maybe from some other guy, or she had a bunch of guys that were into her and she chose you, and that felt so good, and you led her to love, and you were the one that proposed. And I don't know. I don't like to believe that like it's just the man. I don't care if a woman proposes or leads. It doesn't bother me. It's your home, but I know you like it when I lead you, and I like to lead you, and that's our dynamic. So depending on your dynamic in your home, it's like you got to make that call. But if you're trying to be led by a man who never wants to lead back to love, then like it's, I don't know. But the point that I really am just trying to make is this: who does more chores is just a big mirage. And when a man is really in love with like his wife, I just think, and also because all the man really wants is the sex. Like the man
that's the bottom line.
The man wants and if he doesn't, then he needs to heal some wounds, and there's some, or I don't like, there could be deeper things going on. So there's all different kinds of situations out there, right?
It's nothing about
black
this
and white,
cutter.
But the general, this is very generalized podcast. We're doing an episode right now on a man, a stay-at-home wife, and a man who works. But if the man doesn't want just sex, like he wants that connection. But if it's all spinning in the right direction, he's carrying the emotional load. His wife's overburdened emotionally, and then he can take that dumping on and go, like, you'll look at me sometimes at night and you'll be like, our laundry room is outside. It's in a shed outside our house. And so you'll look at me and go, oh man, I left the clothes in the washer. And if it's 9 o'clock at night and you say that, I'm probably going to go get them, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because you're overloaded. And when it comes down to, if somebody comes in the night or there's a noise, why do I get up? Because when it comes down to you or me and who's got the last like in it to give, I'm going to try to give it every time if I can. Like there's some times where I don't have it to give and you do, and then you step up. But if we both don't have it to give, I want to be the one that musters up some kind of energy and gives it.
Yeah, and I think that's the goal, is to be in a relationship where you can trust that you're both giving everything you have. And when I can trust that even in my biggest overwhelm and there's so much mental load on my plate, that you are in the trenches with me just as much, without keeping tit for tat score, but like you're pulling your weight too, and you've got a lot going on, and that I know that if I ask for help and you have capacity, you will give it, and vice versa. If you need help and I have capacity, I'll give it. We can kind of eliminate tit for tat. You can eliminate the the anger of like, I'm doing more. And you like, and that's kind of, I would say, a lot of where we've resided lately is we had to look at each other because we were having some of these conversations of like getting into the weeds. And we had this conversation where we're like, the reality is we're in the trenches right now. We have too much on our plate and not enough time for both of us. So, can we agree that the standards of the house right now, cleanliness wise, are just not where we ideally want them to be in this season? And it's like, yeah, yeah, okay, we're going to let that go. And like, if you guys saw the floors right now, like there's glitter everywhere. Like it, the girls are crafting on the carpet, like or on the rug. Like the house isn't up to my standards, and I'm accepting it and going, we're building a podcast and a coaching business and raising kids, and we have a ton on our plate right now. Like I'm going to acknowledge that you're putting in as much as you can, and so am I, and things are just straight up not getting done. And I think
and
that's
that's
the same as
okay.
like, yeah, people in the seasons of like, they've got a newborn at the house. Like, yeah, the house is not going to be clean.
So I'd ask the resentful woman who, is, and I'm not just hard on the woman too. Like I think the man, step up, man. Like lead your wife back to love. Read books. Find your way back to love and, lead her there.
Work with Dave.
Yeah. But if you are a woman who is resentful, is what you want a chore list? And you both, I'm sure that feels really good. Like you'd probably love if there was just like a chore list for both of us and it was all buttoned up and you
I would
just
frame it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love it.
But that's not love. And although that it's possible,
I know that, but I would still. I mean, my birthday is coming up.
So. Yeah. And because when you do bring in the other chores that are outside the home and the mental load of the house and all the stuff that the guy does, if he works on the cars, if he changes the oils, all that stuff, if you wash, like whatever he does, if it is actually fair, then, the last thing he wants is a list that he's like managed to, probably. And so he really just deep down wants that love and wants that. And he may not trust as well. He may not trust that if he leans in, that he'll get his needs met. And like in the sex episode, we talked about this. If you men, you just do it, like just lean in for a long, but don't be weak. Don't lean in for a week and do a bunch of things and expect that you're going to get a bunch of sex or whatever. Like lean in for 3 months. Like that's it. That's what I would tell anyone that wants to lead their partner back to love or a healthy place. You don't get there. If you're in a crappy place, you're not going to be in a good place tomorrow. There's a lot that has to be cleared, right? And if you're in a good place most of the time and just one fight kicked up, then yes, you could be in a good place again tomorrow. But that's kind of what happens to us. Like we get in fights still, but it's not for a week. Like we've never been mad at each other for a week, I don't think, in many years. I would say it's like one fight comes up or one little, you get mad about mustache hair. And then if I choose door one, that fight is now hours instead of minutes, But either way, we have the tools to work through it. So, but if you have a wall of resentment so big that it's been years since you've really connected, and if the sex has been self-abandonment for a long time and it's not really like
and
connecting.
I want to clarify on that because I think it's more for women. It's self-abandonment. It's like you're having sex because you need to meet your partner's needs, not because you actually want to have sex.
Well, and you're afraid he'll cheat on you or leave you or whatever.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I have to do this to take care of him, even though this is the last thing I want to do right now. And it's like,
or you're thinking about other people, or or your mind is going somewhere else during it. Like, where does your mind go during sex is a huge question that I would ask anyone to self-assess for themselves. Like if you're not able to connect with your partner during sex, like you have a problem.
in the relationship, not you as a woman or you as a man. Like there is a problem in the relationship if sex isn't connecting. We actually call it the thermometer.
Yeah.
Like how good the sex was will tell us how healthy our relationship is.
Yeah, and that measurement of how good it is not what people think it is. It's actually like where does your mind go? Are you present with your partner? Are you in love with them? Are you adoring their body? Are you in love or not? Like, and people are just in denial, I think, about their love for their partner. Like, I love them, but God, I hate them too. It's like, well, I don't know. Like, if you really hate them, I'm sure annoyance is different, but hatred, resentment, contempt.
Yeah, because there's times we drive each other crazy.
Absolutely.
Like a little annoyance is normal. There's no way that like people are married and not
Don't
annoyed
annoy
every
each
now
other
and then.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you're not clearing it out and you're not finding your way, are you in love or not? There's just there's a biological knowing in your intuition when you know you and your partner are in sync. You know? And when you're not, it's a fight to get back there, and it's just a matter of...
If I could summarize this, it's not about the mental load. It's about the love.
The issue's not the issue.
Because if there's love, they'll hear you when you express your overwhelm and your needs, and they'll comfort you, and they will step up if needed.
But I have one caveat, because this does happen with you, and I think a lot, and anyone. I think it happens to me too. Are you handling your overwhelm well? Because a lot of times we in life decide we're trying to travel with our partner from point A to point B. He's, going to carry this weight. She's going to carry this weight. And then they start moving. And then the weight gets heavy. And one person looks over and is like, I don't know if I can hold this weight. And then the other partner is like, I'm carrying so much weight too. Maybe the issue isn't that you guys don't love each other. This caveat is maybe it's too much weight for the home. And that's kind of where we have to come to sometimes, where I'm like, babe, I'm carrying a lot of weight too, and you're carrying a lot of weight. We're both overwhelmed. We have to release expectations and realize we're not going to accomplish what we thought we were at the moment. Like, not long term. We adjust your goals. Like, maybe you...
And we do in those seasons. We scale back on social events. And
this is so common for kids. Like, people have kids and they don't realize, because how could you realize how much sacrifice it is? How much you're going to have to sacrifice your social life, how much you're going to have to sacrifice your traveling, your keeping up with other friends, the amount of money you even make, because now a partner has to stay at home, or your whatever. Your sleep, your budget, exhausted.
You're paying for diapers and doctor's visits.
Yeah. So when you look at your partner, maybe it's not, hey, take a load off of me. Maybe the check-in needs to be, if you guys still do love each other and you're close and you know that you have that love not far from you, maybe when you, instead of, there's mustache hair in the sink, maybe it's, I'm struggling mentally to keep up with our life right now. And then, like, do you have capacity? And the partner's like, yeah, I have capacity. I want this life, so I'll step up more. And then you can offload a little of your weight to the other partner's side for a bit. Or maybe that partner goes, I'm at capacity too. And then you go, what are we going to do? Are we going to call in help? Are we going to downsize? Are we going to, try to get some coaches? Or, like, I've looked at you before and been like, maybe it might be time where we have a coach that helps us through this thing or this period, and we've done that, and so we have a coach right now. So, like, do what you got to do to adjust and think of tools or ways to get out of
and I think that
funk.
That's something I always remind people is there's always options.
Yeah.
As an adult, and I remind myself this constantly, there are always options. You might not like them. They might be kind of painful. It might suck to sell your brand new car and rent a Honda so that you have enough cash flow to pay for a nanny to come in once a week so you can have a date night so you can get your connection back. Like,
That's hard for people.
right? It's hard.
Go listen to the core belief episode.
Yeah, it's hard, but there's always options. And I know a lot of people with like finances are tight could be like easier said than done, but I'm telling you that there are always options that you can find. You just might not like them.
The biggest mental load of all is feeling stuck. And feel, if you feel stuck and you feel like the hamster wheel's spinning and and it's never going to get easier and it's always going to be this hard and you just feel stuck and that there's no options and that you don't have the energy to keep up with your daily life, that's the problem. Because you're not stuck. No one's stuck. You can do whatever you want to do. You want to take if you're in debt, you can choose to go bartend 3 nights a week to carve your way out of debt, and then maybe you have fun doing that, or you can apply for other jobs to make a little bit more money, or you can sell things and downsize. I'd rather be driving. I mean, I've made over 6 figures driving a really old car and had the worst car in the parking lot and not care. And then I have friends driving way nicer trucks and, my dream truck or whatever. And I've just been like, I like my peace of mind, and not that they don't have it, like good for them, but, that's just my decision. Right. And there is always options to your situation. And that's where a coach can really help you, like not to sell coaching, but like a guy in one of my, group things I do, he said the other day, he's like, I've been in therapy. So he just went and got a therapist, and the therapist was like, he's like, she's 24-year-old, never been married, and I've been in therapy longer than she's been alive. And nothing against therapists. Like, I went to therapy. I think therapy is a great tool. Insurance covers it. It's phenomenal. If you are in a place of where you need mental health and you can't afford a lot, then therapy is your option. Go find a good therapist, and that will do you wonders, and it's amazing. If you have a little bit more money and you want to hire a coach who's been through your situation and actually can take you through like a quick 12-week course, then that's the move. Like, that's helped me the most, because it's less time. It's more money up front, but it's less time in the long run. An hour a week at a couples therapist is likely not going to save your relationship. But if you deep dive into some mental health tools and you send yourself into a rework of your brain and a new perspective, and you get somebody that helps you with that new perspective, like to change your life, I mean, I would pay. I'm crazy though. I'd pay $100,000 for a good coach. I don't like, because I know that whatever I get from that coach is going to change my life.
Yeah, well, I think that perspective comes from the first time that you paid for one. It was over $4,000, and you were like begrudgingly like,
I was
man,
annoyed.
Of all the things I could pay for, I'm really gonna drop this. And then you literally exited the program a different human, and our relationship was 10 times healthier. And you went, I'd have paid triple.
Yeah, because not only that, I wasn't spending that at the bar because I wasn't coping from pain. It was a proactive approach to my life. It flipped to the script. From that moment on, my brain was never the same. I'm not the same Dave. I wouldn't have a podcast. I wouldn't be a coach. I wouldn't be helping others. I wouldn't be able to help others. I was in victim mentality and in pain. And, I just think there are options, but not everyone's fallen out of love. I don't want to assume that. Some people are close, and you're closer than you think. And love, it is easier to stir up than you think, but it's not a good date night and crazy sex. A good date night and makeup sex isn't your way back to love. Your way back to love is a perspective shift of gratitude of your partner and a commitment to love again.
And I think caring about the way they feel.
Well, that is love. When you stop caring about the other's perspective and the way they feel, you're on your way to 2 different paths, 2 different perspectives.
Right. Well,
Whew.
that was a lot.
I'm going to do a quick life hack. No. I'm looking for it in the house, but I can't find it.
Wait.
What's the brand of our water bottles?
Awala?
Awala.
Yeah.
My life hack is our water bottle. I love it. It's so good. It's so nice. It's got a built-in straw, and if you do yoga or any type of like physical fitness, the pop, like you don't have to unscrew the lid. I used to hate that when I'd like have to unscrew the lid and drink it, and it doesn't. Maybe this is kind of gross, but it doesn't get as nasty smelling as fast, because when you drink out of like a bigger thing, like in some straws, even I've noticed the water starts to taste weird, or like if you leave it for a day. And like my water bottle, I feel like I don't have to wash it that often. I use it every single day and I wash it, of course, but like it doesn't get like musty, you know?
Yeah, I do feel like it's stainless steel or like metal. I feel like they stay cleaner than the plastic ones for some reason too.
But even my Yeti would get smelly. Nothing. I love Yetis, but like this, I would take this water bottle over my Yeti for sure.
Oh, I would too.
It just is a good water bottle.
Way better than the Stanleys too.
Awala. I didn't like it because I like the Yeti because it's like a manly water bottle. I had a black Yeti and it just felt like heavy and good in my hands, and like and then I switched over, and I can't live without it now. It's so I drink way more water, which is healthy for you. Anyway, that's my life hack.
I didn't see that one coming, but I'm glad you like your water bottle so much. I didn't know you felt this way about your water bottle.
I love it.
Wow.
I'm a lovey.
What? You're a lovey?
What is it called? Awala?
Awala?
Awala. I love Awala.
I'm
a love Awala. I'm a little loopy. We've been talking for like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
And last thing I'm going to say is if you enjoyed this episode, we would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed, left a comment, or followed us on any of our platforms. Love you all.
Yeah. And if you are interested in coaching, we do both offer coaching. So hit us up.
Love to work with you.
Bye.
Bye.